Okay, now it's time to do a close reading of this poem, Sing Song. Right from the start, the title, if you get rid of that H, Sing Song, I mean, already we have a pun. Singh is a common name for Sikh people all over India and now pretty much the world, and that very silly opening and exclamation mark actually also, this announces, I think, the humor of this poem. And how you're supposed to take it. I think you should contrast this with something like Checking Out My History, which uses satire, but in a very different direction. I don't think this poem is as angry, nearly as angry at the UK as the other one. This is much more a kind of hybrid of cultures. He is of course, but now we have this dialect that's going to give us a different voice as we read through the poem. This may be uncomfortable for some of you who are used to who are not using accents and don't want us to be seen as making fun of another culture, but here the poem is really starting to mess with you because it's inviting you to play that way. So I think, I just run one of my daddy's shops, and he warned me not to have break, but when nobody in, I do the lock. I hope that doesn't offend anyone, really, but that way of reading it is necessary for really getting inside the poem. I mean, you have a sense of mockery, but then there's other sounds in this poem too. It's not just mockery. So he has this hard-working father. This is that, Indian stereotypes of the corner shops and hard-working and no breaks. But actually, when nobody's looking, Singh does something different. He does he do de-lock. He does the lock. He locks up when he shouldn't. He disobeys. And why does he disobey? Because upstairs is his new bride. He calls it his newly bride. He's using an adverb incorrectly there, but I mean, I think there's some deference to the way Indians are very playful and inventive with language. I know Nagra does this in his other poems, and if you know Indians or you are Indian, then you know this for sure. If you're not, you shouldn't think of this as an error, but again, poetry is an opportunity for energizing language, for giving you different and more exciting ways to see the world and listen to the world and listen to people. With his newly bride, he shares chapati, which is, I hope all of you eat these foods, like chapati and chutney. So, this is that, these are just Indian foods. I don't want to get into that. And look, after we have made love, I mean, from the beginning of time, poetry and eros, erotic, are twinned, and absolutely this must be central to poetry, as it is central to Romeo and Juliet, as it is central to being young, as it is central to singing and dancing. Love, and the love is an emotion, but love also as physical act as well. And after they've made love, the way they made love actually is as if they're rowing through Putney. Now I think there's some sort of joke here, as if they're rowing a boat. I guess there might be something like the idea of a rocking motion in the boat. This is a pun. Putney is a place in England, but it's also in Hindi, I believe it means Patni, I think is a wife or husband, I can't remember, but there's a pun there. You don't need to know that to enjoy how silly this person is being. When I return with my penny untied, penny untied is the Sikh's turban, which shouldn't be untied, but it is untied, and presumably he's tying it in the shop, and all the shoppers always point and cry, you get this wonderful voice of the people. Hey, Singh, where you been? Your lemons are limes, your bananas are plantain. This dirty little floor need a little bit of mop in the worst Indian shop on the whole Indian road. Um, everyone's complaining. He doesn't really care, though, does he? He's in love. But there is a confusion of things. And it is dirty. And he isn't working hard. And he isn't being religious. He's really breaking all the rules here. When he's in the shop, above his head, high heel tapped to ground. So this wife, high heels she wears. And he seems to not know much about computers. She's playing on the web with the mouse, and she's netting two cat on her Sikh lover's site. So netting, I mean, there's a lot of puns here with mouse and cat, netting as in catching, but also the web. I mean, this is just silly confusions, kind of like the confusions there. And basically, she runs a website. And on this website, it's for Sikhs to meet and love. I mean, she seems to be utterly engaged in this activity of finding love for people. She booked them for the meat and the cheese of her price. I don't know what that means. The meat and the cheese of her price. I'm going to have to think about that, but it sounds like to me something like how she's charging them. I don't know. The tone changes here with the indentation. My bride. So if we look above, it's all one continuous. Above my head, high heel tapped the ground as my wife on the web is playing with the mouse. When she netting to cat on her Sikh lover's site, she booked him for the meat and the cheese of her price. My bride. Pause. She effing up my mom in all the colors of Punjabi, then stumble like a drunk making fun of my daddy. My bride. And then that line, I think, and again, you have to practice reading, and you have to find out your way of reading and interpreting these poems and the voice is speaking. But for me, there's a shift in tone here. From silliness to being serious about why he loves her. She's his bride, and she swears. I mean, this isn't a reason to love, but she swears at his mom. And it's very colorful language she uses. And she gets drunk. So, she wears high heels. She has a business. She gets drunk. She swears. She has really small eyes, but of a gun. What does that mean? If she has small eyes of a gun, do her looks kill? To use a cliche? Do they shoot? She has a tummy of a teddy. Big, nice, round tummy, presumably. He likes it. Again, third repetition. My bride, she have a red crew card, and she wear a tartan sari, a donkey jacket, and some pumps, on the squeak of the girls that are pinching my sweeties. Okay, here we get a haircut that's not really expected. So she's got crew cut. Really? And it's red. Her hair is red. I mean, and that red, that color gets picked up here. Unlike checking out my history, here we see a combination of cultures. Not one history, but a tartan sari. So tartan is that Scottish pattern. And sari is the traditional dress of married Indian folk. And her combination of it is magnificent. She doesn't just wear that. She wears with that a donkey jacket and pumps on the sweet of the girls that are pinching my sweeties. Girls come in and pinch his sweeties, but he's punning on the fact that she's his sweetie. And when he comes back, when he's returned from tickling his bride, again we hear the shoppers complaining. Hey, Singh, where you been? The milk is out of date, and the bread is always stale. The things you have on offer you have never got in stock in the worst Indian shop on the whole Indian road. Now things are getting worse. I mean, it's one thing to confuse lemons and limes, but this is rotten milk. This is stale bread. This is no stock. He is not paying attention to what is going on in his store, and it really is the worst in the whole street. And presumably this is an Indian street with a lot of different people who are who have a lot of shops, and this is the worst one by far. And here again now we get a different shift in tone. We go from these complaining people into the traditional aspects of love poetry. When does love take place, guys? It's not midday. It's going to be late in the midnight hour, okay? In darkness. Quiet. Privacy. No one around. And all the shoppers are wrap up quiet. Not wrapped. Wrap up. They're quiet. They're quiet. All that italicized noise they make up there is quiet. And the whole area is concrete cool. Not just cool, not just quiet, but concrete cool. It's a wonderful thing, especially at nighttime if you think of concrete. And when the heat isn't pressing into it, concrete becomes an actual cool. And I think that's a new experience, or a reminded experience that Nagra's given me. They come down the whispering stairs. The stairs are personified, and they're whispering. There's a secret. There's something to be hidden. And they sit on the silver stool, and now we get the atmosphere of the shop. From behind the chocolate bars, we stare past the half-price window signs at the beaches of the UK in the blighty confusion again. If you've ever heard the good old blighty, that's what he's confusing with. But they're looking at the moon. So no one's around except the moon. And now this very silly poem about Indians who have a corner shop, a wife who's completely unconventional, now becomes a love poem. And we could almost imagine just this section even shifting tone again. And we hear the two voices. We finally hear this bride speak. From the stool each night she say, "How much do you charge for that moon, baby?" Now, I don't know if that's a song, but it sounds to me like she's quoting a song. Like, how much is that doggy in the window? How much are you going to charge for that moon? And he repeats. And this repetition, I think, is important. Because it's the tone that helps create this crescendo at the end of this poem. From the stool each night I say, "It's half the cost of you, baby." He's joking about the half-price signs up here. You know what? The moon is nothing compared to how expensive you are. Here we get those, if you know Indians, stereotypes about money. But beyond the money, it's love. From the stool each night she say, "How much does that come to, baby?" Now this is just the language of shops, but somehow I think Nagra makes it more exciting, more erotic, suggestive, quiet. From the stool each night I say, "Is priceless, baby." And here the ending. Love, you. Love, lover. This world. Priceless. Love makes you crazy. It makes you stop paying attention to your shop. It makes you effing and blinding at your mom, swearing, making fun of your dad. You make things, you're with people that, if you were rational, you wouldn't be thinking about. But here, we get a character who's absolutely mad for love, and with someone who's a real character. I can see her, I can hear her, and they're not confused, though they confuse things. They switch lemons and limes, and but really, and they get their words wrong sometimes, but they really know that it's about love, and this world is about love, and the shop will take care of itself, and who knows what they're going to be like later on. That doesn't matter, because it's priceless what they have now, which is secretive, quiet, cool, in the night, with the moon, two lovers speaking to each other. These are the classic themes of poetry. Absolutely from the beginning of time. So too are their limbs. There must be dance. With voice, there must be song. With song, I tell you what, from the beginning, boys and girls singing to love each other. And within this huge, silly poem with all sorts of different voices and cultures mixing, at the end, it's actually just a very intimate love poem.